She was running late. That's the detail nobody talks about when they tell this kind of story. That it started with something as ordinary as traffic and a parking space and a bouquet of pink roses that were already losing petals by the time Chidera finally rushed through the school doors. Her daughter's graduation, pre primary, the kind of event where 5 year olds wear tiny caps and parents stand in the back crying over something that isn't even secondary school yet. Chidera had been looking forward to it for weeks, had the outfit planned, had taken the afternoon off from the business, which, if you knew Chidera, you understood was not a small thing. She found her husband a maker near the front, saving her a spot like he said he would. She squeezed through the crowd toward him, and that's when the boy ran in. Maybe 4 years old, maybe 5. Moving through that crowd the way small children move, like the world is just a series of obstacles between them and wherever they need to be. And he was heading straight for Emeka, with his arms already open before he even reached him. "Daddy!" Emeka caught him by reflex, and Chidera, standing 3 steps away with pink roses in her hand, watched her husband's face do something she had never seen it do in 11 years. It didn't go confused. It didn't go warm the way it does when a stranger's child makes an innocent mistake. It went blank. The specific blankness of a man watching something he built in secret walk directly into the open. The roses hit the floor. She didn't even feel them leave her hand. Now, before I go further, I need you to understand something about Chidera, because this story only makes sense if you understand who she was before that moment. This was not a woman who sat at home. This was not a woman who married into comfort and stayed there. Chidera was the one who built the thing. When she and Emeka started their logistics company 11 years ago, they had one van, one driver, and a client list that fit on half a sheet of paper. Chidera was the one making calls at midnight. Chidera was the one who remortgaged her mother's property, with her mother's blessing and her own guilt, to keep the business alive in year 2 when a major contract fell through and Emeka wanted to quit. She was the one who looked at him in that dark moment and said, "We are not closing. We are not quitting. Get up." He got up, and together, slowly, they built something real. 4 depots, 31 staff, contracts with 3 manufacturers, and a retail chain that had just renewed for the 3rd consecutive year. That was the life she thought she was living. So when she looked at her husband standing in that school hallway holding a child who called him daddy, she wasn't just looking at a cheating husband. She was looking at a man who had taken everything she built and used it as cover. Emeka, her voice came out steadier than she expected. He looked at her. The boy was still clinging to his side, unbothered, happy, completely unaware that he had just detonated something. "It's not don't." The word landed quietly, but it shut him down completely. Then the woman appeared from near the door. She was put together, calm in a way that immediately told Chidera this wasn't a woman in crisis. This was a woman who had been living inside a vision of this life long enough that she had stopped expecting it to fall apart. She stopped walking when she saw Chidera's face, and something passed between the two of them in that silence. Not anger, not hatred, something more complicated than both. The recognition of 2 people who have been given completely different maps to the same territory. Their daughter Chisom appeared beside Chidera, slipping her small hand into her mother's. "Mommy, who is that?" Chidera looked down at her daughter's face, the cap slightly crooked, the gown 2 sizes too big, still holding her rolled up certificate with both hands. And something inside her chest made the decision her mouth wasn't ready to announce yet. She crouched down. "You did so well today," she said softly. I am so proud of you. Chisom beamed, the way 5-year-olds beam, completely, with their whole face. Then Chidera stood up, looked at Emeka one final time, and said 3 words. Come home, tonight. She picked up one rose from the floor, left the rest, and walked out. The drive home was its own kind of violence. Chisom talked the entire way, about her certificate, about how Marcos cried during the song, about whether they were getting ice cream. And Chidera answered every single question on autopilot because the other half of her brain was doing something else entirely. It was going back, rewinding 11 years with new information. That weekend, Emeka said it was at a logistics conference in Abuja, the one where his phone kept going to voicemail, the quarter where their transport expenses spiked, and he blamed fuel costs, and she accepted it because she trusted him. The times he came home, tired in a way that she now realized wasn't the tiredness of work, but the tiredness of maintenance, of keeping 2 lives running simultaneously without letting them touch. She had been his alibi without knowing she was his alibi. She had been working 18-hour days to build something he was quietly redirecting. By the time she pulled into the compound, her hands had stopped shaking. That was the part that frightened her more than the shaking. She put Chisom to bed early, told her daddy would be home soon, kissed her forehead, and then sat at the kitchen table in the dark and waited. He came in at 9:47 p.m. She knew because she had been watching the clock on the microwave the way you watch something when your mind has nothing else to hold on to. He didn't call out her name when he entered. That alone told her he had spent the drive home deciding what version of himself to walk in with. She heard him pause in the hallway. Then he came into the kitchen and saw her sitting there in the dark and stopped completely. She reached over and turned on the table lamp. Sit down. He sat. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere outside, a generator kicked on. Normal sounds doing nothing for an abnormal moment. Then Chidera looked at him directly. How long? Emeka placed both hands flat on the table like he was steadying himself. Chi, I'm not asking again. He exhaled slowly through his nose. 6 years. The kitchen shrank. She had been expecting a number. She had told herself in the car that whatever number he said, she would not react. She would just collect the information and keep going. But 6 years has weight that preparation cannot account for. 6 years ago, she was recovering from a miscarriage they never told anyone about. 6 years ago, she walked through it in 3 days and went back to the office because they had a contract deadline, and she told herself there would be time to grieve later. 6 years ago, Emeka held her in the same kitchen and told her they would try again, and she believed every word of it. She sat with that for a moment, then continued. The boy, what's his name? Chidera. His name? Daniel. How old? A pause. 5. 5. The same age as Chisom. She nodded slowly. The way you nod when something confirms what your body already suspected before your mind caught up. So while I was pregnant, she said quietly. She was pregnant. Emeka didn't answer. That was its own answer. Does she know about me? Chidera asked. She knows I'm married. That's not what I asked. He looked at the table. She knows your name, he said finally. She knows about the business. Chidera felt something move through her that wasn't quite anger and wasn't quite grief. Something that sits between the two when betrayal has been thorough enough to feel like architecture. So she knew, Chidera said. And your mother, does she know? The pause before his answer was a fraction too long. Emeka. She found out 2 years ago. Chidera pushed back from the table and stood up. Not dramatically, just up. Like she needed more air than sitting aloud. 2 years ago, his mother had sat in this house, had eaten food Chidera cooked, had prayed over their marriage at the Christmas table, holding Chidera's hand, calling her a virtuous woman, thanking God for the wife her son had chosen 2 years ago. I want you to leave tonight, Chidera said. Emeka stood up immediately. Chidera, please, let's talk about this properly. What about Chisom? What do I tell her in the morning when she wakes up and I'm not here? You should have thought about Chisom 6 years ago. I'm thinking about her now. You're thinking about yourself now. Her voice didn't rise. That was the part that made it land harder. You are standing in my kitchen at 10 o'clock at night, thinking about how to keep your life comfortable. That is what you are doing. Don't call it Chisom. He opened his mouth, closed it. She walked to the door and held it. He left. Now, if you're watching this right now and you're thinking this is bad, stay with me, because what Chidera found the next morning is what turned this from a story about a cheating husband into something else entirely. And before we get there, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments right now. And if nobody has told you today, you found a good channel. Like this video and subscribe, because this story is far from over and you are going to want to be here for what comes next. She didn't sleep. By 5 a.m., she was in the small home office they had set up during the pandemic. The one with the filing cabinet she hadn't opened in months, and the laptop that had every single company account synced to it. She told herself she was just checking, just looking. She opened the operational expenses folder first because that was where her instinct pointed. And instincts, she had learned, are usually just pattern recognition that hasn't been named yet. The numbers looked normal at first glance. Fuel, staff, maintenance, depot lease renewals. Then she slowed down. There was a line item that had been appearing monthly for 4 years under vehicle maintenance. Consistent amount, round number, always processed on the 28th. She clicked it. It linked to a vendor account she didn't recognize. She searched the vendor name in their company registration database. Nothing. She searched it in her email. Nothing. She opened the payment details. The receiving account was a personal one. She sat back. Then she kept going. Because once you find one thread, you pull it. And Chidera had always been thorough in a way that made her exceptional at running a business and devastating as an opponent. Over the next 2 hours, she found the following. A monthly transfer that had been running for 4 years, consistently processed the same week each month, totaling in the millions across that period. A property lease in Lekki Phase 1 paid directly from their third depot's operational account. The account she rarely reviewed because Emeka managed that depot personally. School fees, quarterly, processed as staff welfare expenses. A car purchased 18 months ago, registered under a name she didn't recognize. Bought through the company fleet account, never appearing in the company fleet. She wasn't just a woman whose husband had cheated. She was a woman whose husband had been running a parallel household on money she helped generate, using company infrastructure she helped build, hidden inside accounts she trusted him to manage because they were supposed to be partners. She picked up her phone. She didn't call Emeka. She called her lawyer. Her lawyer's name was Simi. They had been friends before they were professional contacts. The kind of friendship that starts in university and survives because both people are too stubborn to let distance or busyness kill it. Simi picked up on the second ring even though it was barely 7 a.m. because that's what 11 years of friendship looks like. Chidera didn't give her a long explanation. She said, he has been running a second family through the company accounts for 4 years. I have the records. I need to know exactly where I stand before he realizes I've been in the system. Simi was quiet for exactly 3 seconds. Then, don't touch anything else. Don't move any money. Don't confront him again yet. Send me everything you found and let me look at it before you do anything. How long do you need? Give me until noon? Chidera sent the files. Then she showered, made Chisom breakfast, plaited her hair, dropped her at her sister's house with a story about a work emergency, and drove to the office like it was a regular Thursday. Because the most powerful thing she had learned in 11 years of building a business was this: never let the other side know you've seen the board until you're ready to move. Simi called at 11:43 a.m. Okay, she said, and her voice had shifted into the register. Chidera recognized as professional serious. What he did is not just a marital issue. Some of these transfers, depending on how the company is structured, could constitute financial misconduct, misappropriation of company funds, the property especially. That's an asset purchased with business capital that doesn't appear anywhere in your company records. What does that mean for me? It means you have options that have nothing to do with divorce court. It means you can come at this from a business angle, not just a personal one. And it means, Chi, listen to me. It means you need to be very careful about the next move, because if he realizes what you know before you are positioned, he will start moving things. Chidera stared out of her office window at the depot floor below. Forklifts moving, drivers checking manifests, 31 people going about their Thursday. He won't realize, she said. He thinks I'm at home falling apart. Are you? A pause. I will be later, she said honestly. Right now, I need to finish this first. She didn't plan to meet Amara. That part wasn't strategy. It was a phone call that came in from an unknown number at 2 p.m. while she was in the middle of reviewing a contract, and something made her answer it instead of letting it ring out. Is this Chidera? The voice was measured, careful, the voice of someone who had rehearsed the first sentence multiple times before dialing. Who is this? My name is Amara. A breath. I think you know who I am. Chidera set the contract down slowly. I do. I want to meet you, Amara said. Not to fight, not to explain myself. I think there are things you deserve to hear from me directly. Things he told both of us that we should probably compare. Chidera was quiet for a moment. Where? They met at a quiet spot in Victoria Island, the kind of place with outdoor seating and enough ambient noise that a difficult conversation can happen without an audience. Chidera arrived first. Amara arrived 7 minutes later, and the first thing Chidera noticed was that she looked tired in a way that expensive clothes couldn't cover. The second thing she noticed was that Amara was alone. No Daniel, no support. Just a woman who had made a decision to show up and was visibly carrying the weight of it. She sat down. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Amara said, He told me you were separated, that the marriage was over in everything but paperwork, that you stayed together for the business and the child, but that you both knew it was done. Chidera absorbed that. And you believed him? I believed him for 3 years, Amara said. After that, I think I just stopped asking questions I didn't want answered. That honesty landed differently than Chidera expected. Because it wasn't an excuse. It was just a woman telling the truth about a choice she had made and had been living inside ever since. He told me you knew about us, Chidera said, that you were fine with the arrangement. Amara looked up sharply. He said what? That you understood the situation, his words. Something moved across Amara's face. Not surprise exactly. More like a final piece clicking into a picture she had been assembling for a long time. He told each of us the other one was okay with it, she said slowly. so neither of us would ask the other directly. Silence, not the heavy theatrical kind, the quiet kind that arrives when two people simultaneously understand the full shape of something. Emeka hadn't just cheated, he had engineered it, built two separate emotional realities, each internally consistent, each with its own version of Chidera as the cold, distant wife, and Amara as the understanding second choice, versions designed specifically so that neither woman would ever feel justified picking up the phone and comparing notes. It had worked for 6 years. It stopped working the moment a 4-year-old boy ran across a school hallway. "What are you going to do?" Amara asked quietly. Chidera looked at her coffee cup for a moment. "I'm taking back what's mine," she said. "The business, the accounts, the assets, everything he ran through the company that shouldn't be there. I'm unwinding it. My lawyer is already working." Amara nodded slowly. "And Danielle?" The name sat between them, because that was the part no legal strategy could resolve. A 4-year-old boy who called Emeka daddy and had done nothing wrong, and would one day be old enough to understand everything that happened in that school hallway and wonder where he fit inside all of it. Chidera exhaled. "That boy didn't choose any of this," she said. "Whatever happens between the adults, he doesn't carry it. That's not something I'm willing to make him carry." Amara's eyes went slightly glassy. She nodded but didn't speak. The divorce took 14 months. Emeka contested it at first. Then the financial misconduct documentation landed in front of his own lawyer, and the contesting stopped. Chidera kept the business, kept the depots, kept the contracts. She bought out his share at a valuation her lawyer negotiated, and his lawyer couldn't reasonably argue with, because arguing with it would have meant opening the misappropriation records in a public filing, and Emeka didn't want that. So he signed. She didn't celebrate the day the papers came through. She sat in the same kitchen where she had told him to leave, with a glass of wine she barely touched. And she let herself feel the full weight of what it actually cost. Not the business, not the money. 11 years. The version of her life she had believed in completely. The man she had remortgaged her mother's property for. The partner she thought she was building something permanent with. That was what it cost. And no legal victory, no matter how clean, gives that back. Chisom asked about her father regularly in the first few months. Chidera answered every question honestly but carefully, the way you answer a child who deserves truth but doesn't yet have the emotional architecture to hold all of it at once. Emeka saw Chisom on weekends. Chidera made sure of that, not for him, for her daughter, who loved her father with the uncomplicated wholeness that children love before they understand complexity, and who deserved to keep that for as long as possible. That was the hardest part, not the anger. Anger is clean. Anger has direction. The hard part was watching her daughter run to her father on Saturday mornings, with the same open arms that Daniel had used in that school hallway. Complete trust, no conditions, and having to hold the full knowledge of everything while making sure none of it leaked onto a child who had done nothing but love both her parents. That required a discipline that no one talks about. The last time Chidera spoke to Amara was 8 months after the divorce finalized. It wasn't a long conversation, just a brief exchange. A question about a school event where both children would apparently be present, logistics, timing, nothing heavy. But at the end of it, Amara said something quietly. "I'm sorry. For my part in it, I know that doesn't fix anything." Chidera was quiet for a moment. "It doesn't," she said honestly, "but I hear you." That was all. Not forgiveness exactly, not closure the way people perform it, Just two women on opposite ends of a phone, both a little older than they were when this started, both carrying something they didn't choose, finding a way to be decent to each other in a situation that never gave them the option to be anything else. She built the empire. He built a second family inside it. And when it all came apart, it wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic in the way people expect betrayal to be dramatic. It was just a woman sitting in a kitchen at night, deciding that everything she had built was still hers, that everything she had lost was real, and that both of those things could be true at the same time. She didn't get her 11 years back, but she kept everything else, and some days that's enough. Other days it isn't. That's the part nobody tells you. If this story stayed with you, drop a comment. Tell me which moment it hardest. And if you're new here, subscribe. Because every story on this channel is told exactly like this. No shortcuts, no easy endings. Just the truth of what people actually go through.